Hello, my name is Angelica, and I will be doing a retelling of a Jack tale. The Jack tale I have chosen is called Jack and the Giant's New Ground and is part of a larger collection by Richard Chase. When we last left Jack, Jack had left his home to find his fortune, and on his way he met a gracious king. The king had a lot of land, however, he had a problem. Most of his land was infested with giants. Jack, of course not being a giant slayer, took the job of killing the giants because he was so hungry and needed work. Before going out to the field, Jack and the king sat down for supper. The queen, being as gracious as the king, put piles and piles of food before Jack: chicken and cornbread, beans, greens, pie, and cake. Jack, not wanting to be impolite, but certainly not being able to finish the whole meal, reached down and doubled up the apron that he had been wearing underneath his coat. Then he'd make like he was taking a bite, and he'd slip it down in that leather apron. He poured about 4 glasses of milk down there, too. He had to fasten his belt down so it would hold. Before going out to the field, Jack and the king spoke about how he would handle it. Jack reassured him that he would be able to handle the giants, and took a small hatchet with him. The king questioned whether that would be enough to kill the giants, and Jack reassured him that it would be so. When Jack finally got up on that ridge, he was scared to death. He sat down on a log and studied a while. He'd known if he started in cuttin', them giants would come up there, and he'd known if he didn't, the king would know he hadn't done no work, and he'd likely get fired and wouldn't get no supper. So Jack thought about it some. Then he picked out the tallest poplar he could and climbed up on it. Started up chopping on the limbs way up at the very top. Hack, hack, hack. Heard a racket directly, sounded like a horse coming up through the brush. Jack looked down at the holler and saw a man about 30 foot high coming a-stomping up the mountain, stepping right over the laurel bushes and the rock cliffs. Jack was so scared he likely slipped his hold. The old giant came up, looked around till he finally saw where Jack was sitting, came over there under him, said, "Hello, stranger." "Howdy do, Daddy." "What in the world you doing up there?" "I'm clearing a new ground for that man lives back down yonder." "Clearing land? Well, I'd never seen such a fool business start in clearing new ground at the top of a tree. Ain't you got no sense? Why, that's, alas, the way we start in clearing back home." "What's your name?" "My name's Jack." "Well, you look here, Jack, this patch of land is ours, and we don't aim to have it cleared. We done told the king so." "Oh, well then," says Jack, "I didn't know that. If I'd known, then I'd not started." "Come on down, Jack, I'll take ye home for supper." Didn't think Jack had known what he meant. Jack hollered back, says, "All right, Daddy, I'll be right down." Jack climbed down ways to get on a limb right over the giant's head. Started in talking to him, says, "Daddy, they tell me giants are awful stout. Is that so?" "Well, some," says the old giant. "I carry 1,000 men before me." "Well now, Daddy, I bet I can do something you can't do." "What's that, Jack?" "Squeeze milk out of flint rock." "I don't believe ye. Throw me up a flint rock here and I'll show you." So while the old giant hunted him up a flint rock, Jack took his knife and punched a hole into the old leather apron. The giant chunked the rock up to him, and Jack squeezed down onto it, pushed up against his apron, and milk commenced to drain out. "Dreep, dreep, dreep." "Do it again, Jack." So Jack pushed right hard that time, and it just went like milking a cow. The old giant hollered up to Jack, says, "Throw me down that old rock." He took the rock and squeezed till finally he got so mad he smashed down on it, and they tell me he crumpled that flint rock plump to powder. Then Jack hollered down to him again, says, "I can do something else you can't do." "What's that, Jack?" "I can cut myself wide open and sew it back up, and it won't hurt me none." "Aw, shucks, Jack, I know you're lying." "You want to see me do it?" "Go ahead." Jack took his knife and ripped open the leather apron, took a piece of string he had and punched some holes, and sewed it back up, says, "See, Daddy, I just as good as I ever was." Well, the old giant just couldn't stand to let Jack outdo him, so he hollered up, saying, "Hand me here the knife, Jack." Took Jack's knife and cut himself wide open, staggering around a little, and finally curled over the ground dead. Well, Jack, he scaled down the tree and cut off the old giant's head with that Tommy hatchet, took him back to the king's house.